Hello and welcome to the living room with Erin. And I am Erin Saunders, the host. I am coming on today to interview my good friend and doctor of psychology and a super wise woman, Dr. Loi Medvin. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So Loi, tell me a little bit about your work and how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, like you said, I'm a doctor of psychology. Right now I have a private practice, and I have an office in Sebastopol and in Santa Rosa. And I have kind of come through a bit of a metamorphosis, I would say, in my practice.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so initially I started out in my training really interested in what we call psychodynamic, kind of about your early childhood experiences and how they impact you. And that and neuroscience were kind of my two big entryway into the field.
Interesting. A lot of people talk about ACEs and
I mean it's a big topic right now.
Childhood trauma.
Yeah, so it's kind of coming into the more popular field, and it does. It has an incredibly huge impact.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole story, you know. So in my work, I went from that to working with preschool age victims of trauma and neglect, and then in the domestic violence field, I actually wrote my dissertation on empathy, the role of empathy in the treatment of domestic violence perpetrators.
Oh, wow.
Which is a whole nother topic, but
totally,
but huge.
And
then college age students and long-term in-depth therapy, and then I did my postdoc in neuropsychology and worked with people with brain injuries.
Oh, that's so fascinating. I would love to know more about what you're doing and what are you finding to be the most relevant part of your work today?
Well, like I was saying, I've really come through exploring many different avenues, and so I use a very integrative approach. So I bring in my background in neuropsych and the brain, and mindfulness is huge, you know. What is happening in the present moment, of course, although what impacts you, you know, what has impacted you in the past is forms the basis of how you react. It isn't everything, and so it's what you're experiencing in the moment, and then you have a lot more choice, you know. And that kind of brought me into the somatic practice, and that's a huge way is kind of the basis for how I practice now, is somatic, and soma just means body. Right. So it's body-based therapy.
It's fascinating. Tell me more.
Okay. And that also is what I find most relevant is getting people in touch with what is happening in the present moment in their body, and going in through a whole variety of different techniques, and I call it kind of playing. It's in some ways it's almost playing in like the liminal space, is that space in between, and it can be really an access into the unconscious when you go in through the body.
So that makes me think about something I've been really curious about, and I'm dying to ask you, and that is, how does diet play into all this when it has to do with body and your emotional state?
Well, diet is huge. It's foundational. You know, when people come in to see me, I talk to, I think, every single person I talk to about their diet, because what you're eating has a direct impact on your emotions and your behavior. Also your internal states of ease and dis-ease. So I would say that 50% of the dopamine that is produced in your body comes from the food that you eat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And dopamine's been a hot topic these days too. Lots
Sure.
of people talking about dopamine.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the.
Can you tell us what does dopamine do for the layperson?
Yeah, dopamine is the feel good. It's the anticipation of pleasure and pleasure. It gives you drive and motivation.
Yeah.
But most people think about it as like, when you're addicted to some substance and then it makes you feel really good.
Right.
Cigarette smoking, sugars,
caffeine.
Carbohydrates, refined carbohydrates will give you a quick hit of dopamine.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is why often when people feel bad, they want to reach for, they don't want to cook. It's too much effort. So you reach for something processed.
Right.
Gives you a quick boost.
That would be emotional eating.
Exactly.
That we all know as emotional eating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It drops you down and then you're stuck in that cycle.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, food, our earliest food, that's love, that's our nourishment, that's
Exactly.
life.
Yes.
So there's all these psychological connections to that too.
Yeah. So for people who do emotionally eat, what are the tools that you would recommend to them?
Well, it's interesting because emotional eating and many of the things that I work with, like anxieties and anger management and any type of affective emotional regulation kind of issue, the internal critic, like all of those things, it's very similar, the steps. So I often have people first track, like just to become aware of, so if it's, say, for example, emotional eating, right?
Yeah.
I have people get really clear. So what's the process? Like what happens? So you have some kind of emotion, say you feel really sad, right? And so then you go over to the refrigerator and you open it up and you take out the thing and then you're eating it. And for a lot of people, like most addictions, they'll be like, well, I don't know, I just was doing it.
Yeah.
So, okay, slow it down. Become aware of, what is happening at every step.
Right.
It's actually a very cognitive behavioral model at first, where you're aware of your thoughts and your behaviors, and you write it.
Yeah.
So you're aware of then the thoughts that you're having, the feelings that you're having, and once you have that, then you can start to make different choices.
Right.
So once you're aware that, you feel sad and then you get this urge. So then I would have you tune into, okay, the urge, where is it coming from?
Yeah.
Like, is it really that you're hungry? Is it coming because you feel this emptiness inside? Is it, like, what is it there?
Right.
And then I ask people to just stay with that feeling and breathe.
Be aware.
Yeah.
Conscious.
And to focus in on it and to stay with it.
Right.
And then there are many ways, like I mentioned earlier, that you can kind of go in and play with what's inside there to really cause big shifts.
Yeah.
But to start off with, it's basically tracking, noticing.
Yeah.
Yeah, breathing.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Hey, I wanted to ask you a couple more questions. One of them is, would you tell the audience, like, who's your ideal client and who do you love to work with?
So I would say my ideal client is somebody who is feeling pretty overwhelmed, stressed out, maybe having difficulty managing their emotional states. Like, they can work, they can have relationships, but they're not performing or living at their optimal state of being. So, that way I can teach them these ways to really tune into themselves, to become more fully connected.
Yeah.
Through the somatic strategies, and learn how to listen to themselves, honor themselves, and when they do that, it's self-care. It's not selfish.
Right.
You know.
Yes.
But in doing so, then they can kind of unleash their inner vibrancy and their joy in being alive.
Oh, I love that. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had another question that came to my mind, and that is, I know you've been working on this ecstatic dance program for a while.
Yeah.
Would you tell me about what your inspiration is for that and how that ties into your work?
Sure. Well, dance has always been a huge thing for me.
That's how we met.
Yes. Many of my friends, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, today at the coffee shop, a woman walked by and she's like, "Oh, dancing mama," you know. You know, starting from when I was really little. I mean, I would say, so my mom and dad, my dad played African drums, my mom danced.
Yeah.
When she was pregnant with me, and then when she was like, you know, carrying me and breastfeeding and stuff. So I grew up with that.
Yeah.
And I would dance around when I was little, and you know. And then I've taken a ton of different dance classes, and as I got older, it was kind of like my big release.
Yeah.
You know, it was a way that I could move a lot of emotion and energy. It was like a meditation for me. Really one of the most effective ways, besides being outside in nature, you know, for me to feel better.
Yeah.
So I got involved with ecstatic dance maybe 5.5 or so years ago. And sometimes I have a tendency, if I really enjoy something, then I want to help run it, and then you know, end up running it.
Yeah, you are an organizer.
And I have a great partner that I do it with too, which makes it so much easier.
How long have you guys been doing it now?
Like five or so years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And such a great community resource. I still need to go.
Yeah, we have one this Sunday.
Yeah.
It's the first and third Sunday, and first Friday nights if you're in the area.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always been, you know, a therapeutic thing, and self-care.
Yeah.
And so I've also taken some dance therapy, you know, weekend workshops, and up until this point, my clinical work has been pretty separate from the dance work that I do. I mean, I hold the space, I facilitate it, but it's not technically in my psychology
practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm in process of bringing the two together a little bit more.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I already have people, you know, when they're feeling something in their body, sometimes I have them like make that motion, or, you know, shake and wiggle. It's a great stress reliever, by the way. That's awesome. Go outside and just shake and, you know, wiggle, and it looks really silly, and so you might laugh too. But so I've already had people doing that, but since there's such a therapeutic aspect, I'm figuring out what that looks like for me in my practice, and how to put that out.
Yeah, I imagine it's very therapeutic because we all hold so much stress in our bodies.
Yes.
So it's a great way to release.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I mean, you know, part of the basis of somatic therapy is that we hold the traumas and the stresses and everything. We store them in our bodies.
Right.
You know, especially pre-verbally before you can speak, but even later.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just any final thoughts or call to action that you'd like to bring in at the conclusion of our interview?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad this worked out. It was fun. Well, people can find me. My website is www.drloi.com. That's just drloi.com. And I have a Facebook page, Dr. Loi Medvin. And besides that, you know, if you check out my website and you feel the call, you can send me an email or give me a call and get in touch. I offer a brief phone consult to see if we might be a good therapeutic fit. It's really important. Like, you're not going to mesh with everyone, you
Right.
know, and so it's important that that both people feel comfortable enough to enter into that therapeutic space.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Sure.
for coming on.
Yeah,
I really
thank you.
appreciate it. You guys, this is the awesome and amazing Dr. Loi Medvin.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I'm
Erin.
so grateful that she came on with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.